So this is podcast 2, following on from the one we did in April of this year. Lots happened since then. This is a joint exercise between Aldridge Now and Then and the Facebook page Stop the Build on Aldridge Greenbelt. And as I say, it's a follow on from April's podcast and I've got David Smith with me and Christine Edwards, but it's not Christine Edwards now, is it? Because things have moved on, and I have to address you as Councillor Edwards, Councillor Christine Edwards. So as I say, a lot's happened. So if you guys can update us where we're at.
A lot has happened possibly over the last sort of week. Prior to that, obviously, activities were sort of spent regards the elections and the campaign, which I'm honoured to say I was elected to represent Aldridge North and Walsall Wood. Obviously, priorities were and still are to save our greenbelt in Aldridge. Quite a few sites, as mentioned before, should now possibly be coming into the planning committee. Applications are in on many, many sites. We know there isn't anything going through next week at the planning committee, June the 18th. But then we look forward to July. We won't know until July, possibly the week before even, as to what developments, if any, will be going through. But at this point, we need to waken residents up to the fact that these planning committees could be going through, and we're going to be shouting up to you all again to get your placards off us, stand outside the council house and shout loud and clear, which we've been doing for the last 12 months. The campaign that we did, the last campaign, was on the Croft in Aldridge, and I'm estimating 300 to 400 people turned up again, so that was across the borough. So I think we all know the strength of feelings around these inappropriate building development proposals.
Yeah, the protest that we had on the 18th of April was actually part of 200 protests that were taking place nationwide, as part of the Community Planning Alliance campaign. Since that event, the Community Planning Alliance have also produced photo books of the various events across the country, which have gone into key MPs of all parties in Parliament. The meeting in July of the Planning Committee is on the 30th of July, so we expect to see by about the 23rd of July the agenda come out for that, so we should know by then which planning applications are going to be considered at that meeting. More recently, we approached the new Reform administration in Walsall, who are all completely new councillors like Christine here, and are trying to find their feet really. We asked them if they would listen to our concerns about the proposals to build on the Greenbelt. And we met with the council leader, Councillor Elaine Williams, the deputy leader, Councillor Nicky Barker, and a number of the local ward councillors from Reform. And had, I think, a positive discussion with them about the issues, the concerns that we've got. And they certainly listened, and they took a number of those points away. So I'm pleased to say not only have we got support from the Conservative councillors like Christine, but also we've now had some expressions of support from Reform, as well as some of the other parties. I think that's a very positive thing.
So you mentioned issues, David. What issues are we still facing and what can be done about those?
Right, there are a number of things, Russell, that we raised with the Reform councillors last week, and the Conservative councillors are very well aware of as well. These relate to not only the issues of brownfield sites being used first and protecting Walsall's Greenbelt, but the type of developments that the developers are actually proposing to build. So we're seeing a lot of cases of proposals being put forward that are for larger houses, expensive houses in prime sites. And what we certainly feel we need around Aldridge are low-cost housing for local people. We have a lot of young people who are looking to buy as first-time buyers and probably can't afford houses that, let's say, are over £200,000. But there is a dearth of those sort of houses around Aldridge and around the neighbouring areas. So that is very much an issue that we need to keep putting forward these issues and saying the developers need to start looking for more low-cost housing in their proposals. They've been calling them affordable. But what do we mean by affordable? Affordable means different things to different people. So we prefer to use the term low-cost housing. We're still very much concerned about the roads, the local health services, the schools' infrastructure, and the demand on them, particularly where demand is already very high or at capacity. So that's, again, something that we need to keep raising. A number of the developments are proposed on land that's currently being farmed, and we need to protect our food supply and make sure that we don't lose good farmland. We need to avoid land where there are either potential mineral supplies or where minerals have previously been extracted, particularly where around Bosty Lane there were limestone workings, and those areas, we've been told, are liable to subsidence. And then there are the wildlife areas, the wildlife corridors and the nature reserves and special protected areas, and we need to make sure those are protected. What we did when we spoke to the Reform councillors last week was we urged them to review the local plans to ensure that the sites in there that had been identified met the right criteria. And when the planning applications go to the planning committee, we need local people to come along and protest outside the council house, protest with it, and come into the meeting and raise their concerns in the meeting.
Oh, that's interesting. So the local community can come into the meeting?
The local people can go into the meeting. The meetings are public, and we intend to raise our concerns at the meeting. A couple of people can speak on each planning application, and we're going to try to put ourselves forward as speakers for those.
I shall definitely be speaking.
But you'll be presumably speaking in your role as councillor.
Yes, as a role of councillor, but I'm also a resident.
Oh,
I know it can have a conflict of interest, i.e. this last meeting was Reform, and Reform didn't want me in there. But when it goes to planning, I can, as a councillor, but as a resident, say how it is and speak up for the community.
So these 300 people that approximately that turned up on the croft on that day, I was there with them. What can they do next? What's the next thing for them? You've mentioned this council meeting and probably be at the doors for the meeting, or a few go in. What's the timeline now for the next sort of action, if you like, in the community?
I think really action now, we've probably gone as far as we can to this point.
Yeah.
Because we've got people motivated and we've tried hard to do that. But this podcast, I'd like it to be put out there and up people's interest. It's gone quiet with the elections. Don't think it's gone away.
No,
don't think it's gone away, and be aware that these planning proposals will start to filter through planning permission, and be ready and get engaged again. And as David has just said, turn up at the council house and just shout loud. We've been doing that, and the louder we shout. Because what we've got to realise that Aldridge, like at quite a few areas across the country, have had an excessive amount of developments and targets put upon them from government. Mm-hmm. We've got a very high level of targets to meet government expectations. And that annoys me because I want to push back at government.
Yeah, but I think that's a valid point. What you're saying there, say 300 people gave up their time. It's nice to be able to keep them informed.
Yeah.
It probably has gone quiet, but through no fault of anyone's, but just for the
It was
elections
just
and due process. I
Yeah.
gather it takes
Well,
time.
that's right. It took a long time, and nothing really has been done since before the election. So you're talking April.
Can people still write in, or is that
Yeah.
is that window closed now?
No, they can write in right up until the planning application goes through. I wrote in again a couple of weeks ago, and other issues came up because they were taking ground, not water, sort of doing groundwork
Yeah.
in respect of how wet the ground gets. And they did it the week after that very hot spell.
Yeah.
So I wrote into council and sent photographs in and said, well, look, this is how it is when the weather's normal.
When people see this in the community, when they see, like you explained there, people doing groundworks, is that in support of reports or in support of the planning
It's
applications?
support of the developers' reports.
It's on the developer's side, and
and this is another issue. A lot of the reports are done by developers. They're driven by developers because they're very, very costly reports.
yeah.
Council and the private person, David and I, you'd have to muster up hundreds of thousands of pounds to cover all these reports. So there's that total imbalance between what developers can do.
But presumably these reports are tabled as part of the planning. They're not secret, or they're not just
They're all
for the developer.
for the planning permission.
So you get sight of these reports and challenge them at that stage.
David would tell you more about that. At what point you would challenge their report? Would it be, or is this just for the planning application
It's just for the
officers?
planning applications.
Okay.
For the
yes,
officers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there'll be a chance to challenge these at the planning committee meeting. As I say, a couple of people can speak.
But you only
seeing
get
as
2
a
minutes
councillor-
to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the next crucial or critical deadline then? Is it this planning meeting that you're mentioning? Does something get signed off at that stage, or is there a further meeting? Or
No, nothing has been signed off. We know there's a planning committee next week, June the 18th, but none of the developments are going through that one. We won't know what's going through July's planning committee until nearer the date.
Okay.
And that is when, and people will have less than a week to rally themselves round, get their banners and get down to council to start protesting again. Because this is it. It all seems last minute, doesn't it, with these?
We had a lovely meeting in January, albeit the snow kept a lot of people away. Is there any plans to do another community meeting like that, or any need for it? Or?
At the moment, we're talking with our local Conservative councillors and we're talking with our local Reform councillors. And what we'd like to do is try to get together and discuss some of the issues locally. I think one of the things that people need to realise, first of all, when we went to the meeting last week with the Reform councillors, there were 4 groups from across Walsall that were involved. So there's a large area of greenbelt around this side of Walsall, and so it doesn't just affect people in Aldridge. And in fact, there are about 21 sites across the greenbelt that have been identified either in local plan or developers have identified them as good sites that they would like to build on. 6 of those at the moment are applications that are going through, and at some point will go to the planning committee. So there's a lot going on. It won't just end with Bosty Lane and Birch Hill planning applications going to the planning committee. There'll still be things going on beyond then. So we will be looking at more activities beyond July. And it will probably go on for months and months, if not, well into next year. One of the things that I would say that people can do is each of our local councillors Christine here and the other Conservative councillors and the Reform councillors hold surgeries each month. So if there are issues that people have that they want the councillors to be aware of or want to discuss with the councillors, they have the chance to go along to those surgeries and speak to them. I've done that myself, and it's a very useful exercise. They'll sit, they'll listen and discuss with you.
Something I'd like to add to that, as David says, they are working on, or David's working on, having a Reform and a Conservative meeting. Now, I personally would very much like to have the public involved on that one.
Yeah.
I would very much like the meeting you mentioned back in January. I would love to see the public involved in that,
Yeah,
because nothing will give you a greater understanding of what is going on until you can speak to the people.
Yeah, and sometimes people do have questions.
Yeah, they would have the opportunity then, wouldn't they, to ask?
They can send questions in via this podcast, and
Yeah.
you can answer them via the Facebook page.
Yeah.
But you mentioned these councils. We're actually situated. We're doing this in Aldridge Library. And isn't that where the meetings go on a Saturday morning for the council?
That's for Aldridge Central
Aldridge
and South.
Central, okay.
South Aldridge and Central. I'm North Aldridge and Walsall Wood.
Okay, yeah.
I do one at Oak Park and I do one at Druids Heath.
Okay, yeah. So
The dates are on the council website if anybody wanted to
Yeah.
find those out.
Okay.
And the same I can say, Ade, with the two Reform councillors for North Aldridge and Walsall Wood. They also meet at Oak Park Leisure Centre every couple of weeks. And again, as Christine said, the details are on the Walsall website.
That's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people need to get engaged, and if this unfortunately, I won't be able to make this next meeting, but if it does happen, and I hope it does, I'd love to think that the public would be invited to attend.
Yeah, and that's why I think these podcasts that we're doing are important. So
To inform people.
to show that it is still going on.
Yeah.
As I say, we go back to that the walks to the craft. That it hasn't just all finished
no,
at that.
no,
I
definitely
I think
not.
it's important to show that people can still be engaged with this.
Participate, yeah.
Well, I think that's been most useful. Thank you for the update. I'd like to thank Aldridge Library. If anyone sees the photo we've got, has been in the library. There's a pod, looks a bit like a TARDIS, a Doctor Who TARDIS, but the library have made that available to us. So any noises you can hear is just people using the library. But thank you both, David and Christine, for the update. People can still send questions in to keep their eyes on the Facebook page, and if they've got comments or questions, and hopefully we can do this again in the not too distant future. I should see you I'm not sure you're going to be there, but I'll be at the council meeting to see how it all works out and how it goes. But thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for inviting us again.
Thank you. Cheers.